It is 12:01. Good afternoon from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I'm Lucas Panzica. The Tennessee Titans made it official on Monday. The team is parting ways with general manager Ran Carthon. Made it official Tuesday, rather, after 2 years in the role. President of Football Operations Chad Brinker will lead the search for a new GM, but will have final say with the 53-man roster. Head coach Brian Callahan will continue in his role. In terms of names, the Titans have reportedly reached out to request an interview with for the GM position. They are Chiefs assistant GM Mike Borgonzi, Browns assistant GM Kat Raish, and Browns assistant GM Glenn Cook, among others. In other NFL news Tuesday, the Raiders have fired head coach Antonio Pierce after his first full year as the head coach in Vegas and a 4-13 season. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors, 615-737-1045. You want to get in on the conversation, of course, to F&M Bank Chat on Zone TV, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook Live. And we're asking you, are you buying what Chad Brinker is selling as something new? That's what we want to know. Are you buying and why? Because just so you guys know, this is what he said on TennesseeTitans.com yesterday. What is our vision? We're going to be a draft and develop organization. What does that mean? Number one, it means we're going to build the core of our roster through the draft, and we're going to be selective in free agency. Number two, it means we're going to emphasize player development, particularly our young players. And number three, once those players are developed, we're going to be looking to retain our core performers, our very best. I grew up in this system. It's what I know. It's what I believe in, but it requires patience over panic. It requires being disciplined people with disciplined thought and disciplined action, but it's also a system that's been proven for over 30 years. So once this vision came out, all was forgiven by some media members, all was forgiven by some segment of the fan base. Let me tell you something. First off, this vision isn't anything revolutionary. Blaine, I think you would agree that every GM wants to be a drafted, developed organization.
No doubt about it. Did they say the same thing when Rand was hired? Or somewhere similar to that?
Well, that's my point. The people that are acting like this is new or revolutionary, you guys are crazy. You're being sold a bill of goods. Because first off, I'm not saying this isn't a good...
Insulting our intelligence right here now.
You know, my wife asked me, do these people think you're stupid? Yeah. Like you, the fan base and the media are stupid? I said, I don't know if they think we're stupid. I think that maybe we're naive or gullible. And I want y'all to remember what I said. We're going to be a draft and develop organization, build the core of our roster through the draft, selective in free agency, emphasize player development, particularly our young players. And once those players develop, we're going to retain our core performers. So remember that. Mm-hmm. Last year, February 2nd, 2024, because I want to bring this up. This is Chad Brinker on the official Titans podcast. You really want to build your team through the draft. I mean, that's Ran and I, that's our background. Mm. That's where we come from. Philosophically, we're built through the draft, develop young players, and retain our core performers. I mean, that is as simple as I can make it. Free agency is something that supplements your draft. You want to build the core of your roster, the core of your team through the draft. The lifeblood of the organization runs through the draft. I want to go back to my original quote. You really want to build your team through the draft. I mean, that's Ran and I. That's our background. That's where we come from. Philosophically, we're built through the draft, develop young players, and retain our core performers. I mean, that's as simple as I can make it. February 2nd, 2024, and he's billing you the same bill of goods, selling you the same bill of goods less than a year later, and saying that's why Rand was fired, because he couldn't do those things. Mm. Well, you guys said you guys were perfectly aligned,
but he was consistent. I get it. I'm not even like mad about this whole situation because I feel like Rand had some missteps in his hire. I was assuming that he knew Brinker. Because people you hire, that's why people hire their friends. People could have been mad about Vrabel or Callahan hiring people he knew, his dad. Or guess what? But you can trust him. That's why they do this. I thought he knew Brinker because for him to get elevated 6 months or whatever the number was after he got the job above you was already telling you that this is a snake in sheep's clothing already. So guess what? Rand probably felt very uncomfortable from that point on. I mean, just imagine that now.
Now, listen,
So that goes on. And so then he didn't get rid of the scouting department, get his people in, and he kept Vrabel's people in there. And then maybe they weren't his guy. Now we're seeing, you see what Brinker's doing immediately? That's what Rand should have done because then he gets his people who trust in him. So that's how the corporate world works. If I have any fault to Rand, that is it. Because you see how Brinker's operating and you see how you look like you was a first-time guy getting a corporate head job, and that's how you operate. So that's probably the biggest fault of Rand Carthon.
Hiring Chad Brinker, keeping all those scouts employed that were from the prior regime that didn't like you to begin with because, listen, believe it or not, I mean, employees are very, I guess, tribal, as you could say. They have their loyalties to people that were loyal to them to begin with. It's hard for you to win them over most time. And the biggest problem was keeping all those Vrabel, J-Rob holdovers from the scouting staff. Because those are the ones that are really, let's be honest, are the ones likely that have been putting some stuff out there that is painting Rand Carthon in a negative light. Let me tell you guys something. You don't get promoted by the Los Angeles Rams. You don't get plucked by the San Francisco 49ers and then get promoted by the San Francisco 49ers. You don't get sent to Deebo Samuel's house to negotiate that contract and put the seal on the deal. You don't, you're not responsible for day 3 picks if you're not a grinder of football.
Yeah. Well, that was
I'm sorry. That does not pass the smell test. Yeah, None of this really passes the smell test. And I'll get to this.
You're referencing the lazy part of the part. He fell asleep on the plane.
Wake up wake up thinking about football, go to sleep thinking about football. Give me a break.
Oh, man, I don't know about that one, man.
Give me a break.
Yes, I agree.
Here, on to the Chad Brinker things. This is what Chad Brinker and the hiring of Chad Brinker. Chad Brinker, February 2nd, 2024, says, and I quote, he wanted to build an all-star staff as well, talking about Rand Carthon, and he went out and said, okay, who's the best at what they do? And he did a lot of research on the back end. And for whatever reason, he landed on me. And it was just the right fit. And when we met each other, we just clicked. It was like we were long-lost brothers. It just works. Maybe stepbrothers, I guess. I mean,
no. I don't think this is stepbrother, man. I don't know, man.
I don't know. Maybe estranged cousins with the way that you just threw him under the bus.
Yes.
That lasted a long time. Well, we were just long-lost brothers. And this is after they were already working for a year, by the way. This isn't, when Chad Brinker was hired. This is after they've worked for a year together. All these quotes. Let me tell you something. Here's another quote from Chad Brinker. February 2nd, 2024. I know Rand and I, we've had a lot of conversations just around philosophically how to build a football team. And we're just so aligned, he and I. Boy, things sure did change over a year. And boy, does everybody want to insulate Chad Brinker, who was over the salary cap and over the analytics department, with both play a role in the draft and free agency in some capacity.
Mm-hmm. And they want to insulate him from.
Well, that's my next part. They really want to insulate him from all the decisions that Rand had made. But I'll go back to a Paul Kaharski article over at paulkaharski.com from March 24th or March 26, 2024, titled "Inside the Titans Trade for L'Jarius Sneed." Here's a section of it because he's interviewing Chad and Rand throughout this article. And it goes right here. Brinker had a pre-existing relationship with Kansas City assistant general manager Mike Bergonzi. Remember that name for later. So they did most of the talking. Brinker and the assistant general manager, Mike Bergonzi, did most of the talking. The newly structured Titans front office will regularly operate that way, leaning on the relationships they already have to use them to their advantage. Chad Brinker, as a salary cap analyst, as an analytics guy who also has an injury model, who has a pre-existing relationship with Mike Bergonzi, was the main guy in the Snead trade. So this idea that, they fired Rand because because of the Snead trade, because they want to keep draft capital, and they thought that they spent too much money. Well, guess who's spending the money? Who's involved in that?
The Brink truck.
The Brink truck. So give me a break.
Oh, man.
Give me a break with this. This is ridiculous. And
Brinker's
this is
the wizard, man.
And guess who's interviewing for the GM job? The quote-unquote GM job.
What was the name you said
Mike
earlier?
Bergonzi.
Oh, that guy. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Boy.
these are just direct quotes. I'm not throwing anything out there that wasn't readily available for anybody to read.
Oh, I'm trying to think. What is the name of that one show? This is reminding me of that show. The way Brinker's hopper. I think about it over the break. I'm sure Jack's can help me. You got to remember the name of a show that's kind of reminds you of all this?
Succession for me or Game of Thrones, but
Game of Thrones is what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Game of Thrones, yes, because that was, oh man, I watched every, good Lord. This is exactly what this
this is what it is. And this is a corporation. You see this all the time, corporate politics.
Yep.
This is what this is. And if let me tell you something. I wish I had an employee like Chad Brinker selling cars back in the day, because he would have sold everybody that came on the lot anything that he wanted to sell them.
Oh, man.
Because this guy is a salesperson. And that's fine. It's fine to be a salesperson. Listen, so you have to have some modicum of sales to be a general manager or whatever title you want to give them. But let's not forget that he's talking about being in lockstep, aligned with Rand, how great Rand is throughout these whole conversations, that they believe in the same stuff. The same stuff he's trying to sell you, fans, as something new.
Man.
So I want to hear from the fans. How do you feel about what I've said so far? And are you buying what Chad Brinker is selling? It may work.
Oh, it definitely could work. Now, it doesn't matter
mean it doesn't
because he's going to have
work.
all his people in there when it's all said
But
and
if
done.
it don't work, see you, Chad Brinker.
Oh, I don't know. He's
Well,
still
maybe
looking
not.
down like I'm hiring a gym. I have all power, but you are going to be the fall guy.
And let me tell you, Brian Callahan, sleep with one eye open. That'd be my advice. Because there's reports that keep coming out and all this kind of stuff. All I know here, he may say one thing in the media. He may say one thing to you, but you're on thin ice, buddy.
Oh, yeah. No. I still think it's not over.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that about the head coach. Yeah, because this is...
I told what I said
this is not
yesterday.
his guy.
Yeah. What I say yesterday, Blaine, I said that statement where Amy Adams-Strunk said Brian Callahan is safe and we're continuing on with Brian Callahan doesn't mean the data that it was released on. All those megabytes and, all that stuff that was used to make that on Microsoft Word don't mean crap. Yeah. We'll get to your phone calls when we come back. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone.
Hey, this is Blaine Bishop. I want to know if you have heard about peptides. Peptides are shaking up the fitness world. There are naturally occurring aminos in our bodies, and as we age, they start to decline. And at some point, they may need to be supplemented. This is why our workouts can stop being productive at the gym. So maybe you feel like you've hit a wall, or perhaps you feel tired all the time. You may be struggling to stay awake in the evenings when you get home from work. Well, if you have the thought that this is just a normal part of aging, it doesn't have to be that way. Peptides are proven to increase muscle and performance, burn fat, and help with recovery between workouts and more. And peptides can even help with motivation and mental clarity. These are all safe, naturally occurring aminos, not pharmaceuticals. A natural and holistic way to get your body back to peak performance. Plus, Edge Peptide Therapy has the most comprehensive blood panel around. So when you go to Edge, you will know exactly what is going on inside of your body and what it needs to get back to peak performance. so you feel better from the inside out. So go to edgepeptide.com. Yes, that's edgepeptide.com. If not, you can just give them a call at 615-724-1878. That's 724-1878.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Door, 615-737-1045. Are you buying what the Tennessee Titans and Chad Brinker are trying to sell you about the new vision of this team? Because some in the media would have you believe that it's new, when really it's just the same thing that every GM probably says 30 times in every press conference. Let's go to Andrew on the phone, 615-737-1045, who wants to talk about Rand Carthon. Andrew, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Hey, guys. Blaine hit the nail right on the head. This is just like not Walking Dead. Game of Thrones.
It could be, hey, listen, it could be Walking Dead, too, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but, what this also shows us is that Amy Adams is not as smart of the owner as we thought she was for falling for this. She's just gotten exposed, not just by you all here in Nashville, but the national media as well. And I do have a question for Blaine, and that is it possible to run a Titans organization from Houston? I mean, I've always wondered about that because she sort of isolated herself outside of this market. So who is she listening to, especially if she's not here to hear the fans or hear you all talking about her unless she's listening online? So I'm just wondering, can she run that organization from Houston?
That's a great question, Andrew.
Yeah, I don't know how often she's back and forth, but that always is a tough task because you have to have a circle of people that you trust. And with the changeover, so you now have to think about who those people are within the building that she is now talking to. And everybody's trying to make sure that they position themselves so they save themselves as actually get their jobs and keep their jobs or be elevated. And who has access to her. So it's people in those positions that she's probably leaning into and talking to and making that whatever they say, trusting in what they say. So I think that's the circle. And I think it can be done, but the circle cannot be thinking I need to elevate and save myself from whatever's being done without saying the truth, telling the truth. So I think that's where the difficulty lies within the circle of the building that she is listening to. And maybe they're trying to protect themselves. And you can't blame them.
Now, is it a circle or is it a straight line of trust or is it a triangle of trust? Like, we don't even know if it's a real circle or anything.
Idea. It could be one person. It could be two people in the back. I don't know.
Are they even football people? Where's the football people that can help her make decisions? Is that now Chad Brinker? Has he been elevated to football person? And is that really smart for that to happen so quickly? Yeah. Considering that, he's experienced in football, but he hasn't had real GM experience. Oh. When you really think about it, when you go through the list, he's scout and he was over his salary cap. And some of that, is GM stuff, but not a lot of it. So, I mean, has she surrounded herself with football people that she could trust? And that goes into one of my quotes from Rand Carthon from February 6th of 2024. It starts at the top with Miss Amy and her approach. And then it spreads to the business side, and then it just carries down to the first floor. You know what I mean? So it's only right that it flows that way. And so, again, surrounding yourself with the right kind of people first and foremost. But then people who are passionate about what we do for a living, and then they're an extension of me. Chad and A-Rob, talking about Anthony Robinson, who got fired yesterday. Mm-hmm. They're an extension of me. They know me very well, and they know what we're trying to do. Our workday should be the same, the flow the same, and what we're doing should be the same. And so that will be because of me, Anthony Robinson, and Chad all being on the same page. He surrounded himself with people, but maybe people that he shouldn't have been surrounding himself with. He really needed to bring in people that he knew that he could trust because he's worked with them before, and he didn't do it. In life in the NFL, this is just how it goes. Mm-hmm. This ain't exclusive to Tennessee Titans, but this is how life in the NFL goes. And really, if you want to say anything, is that maybe he didn't play. He maybe played the game honorably. For those that watch Survivor, he was Sue. Maybe a little bit of Teeny in there. But he wasn't as cutthroat as like Genevieve and Rachel. Just want to throw that out there. Like, he didn't play the game of Survivor very well. Let's go to Will, who wants to talk about Rand Carthon. Will, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Doing good. How are you?
Good.
I'm all right. I just got not too much to say. I think it's funny y'all comparing it to Game of Thrones and Survival, but That's part of what we got going on. They knew the guy was a rookie. GM coming in. They should even expect it to have a winning season. And now it sounds like with all these stuff coming out, sounds like they got under the bus. And Brinker was behind the scenes doing stuff, and everybody's pointing the finger at Rand. It just don't look good for the team. Don't look good for Amy Allen. Makes her look more lost. And people around Nashville or Tennessee been yelling at shoot before even Bud died that team was being ran wrong. So I'm just saying they need to make a reapproachment just altogether. That's all I got to say.
I agree. And again, from rumors that are popping up and stuff like this, and we know that this is usually the case when you hire a new GM, their standing head coach is not their guy. This is just you're forcing head coaches and GMs or de facto GMs to stick with each other. And that's just a recipe for disaster and a recipe for someone else to get stabbed in the back next week. A lot of people think this may set them up for a reset next year. Guess what? You're set up for a reset now.
Yeah,
why delay the reset? If that's the truth?
I'm right there with you. That's why I said Callahan mean watch. You might as well just go. You have the first pick. Let's start it clean. If Brinker's your guy, you hire your GM, then you get your coach. Because it's never going to work. 9 times out of 10, it's not going to work.
And I've seen and read and heard a lot of people talk about, well, Rand Carthon spent a lot of money. Here's from Chad Brinker, official Titans podcast, 2/2/24. We're trying to add impact players, and when it comes to free agency, you're going to pay a premium for that. That was before free agency started, so this paying a premium and the money that they spent. Guess who was in charge of the salary cap? Guess whose analytics told them that they could go get L'Jarius Sneed? Guess who was involved in the Calvin Ridley? Chad Brinker. Like, guys, Chad Brinker is not separate from the decisions that Rand Carthon made.
Which is what Brian Callahan said.
Brian Callahan said that this past week. I think it was Monday. Yes. Said in the press conference. He did. All 3 of us got together. We all share the same vision, collaboration, all this stuff. But everybody wants to ignore them, put the blame on Rand.
No, you know what happened? Rand went home and fell asleep, and they were still meeting with Amy.
Yeah.
That's what happened. That is what happened, Jackson. Were you at that meeting, Jackson?
Yes, I was.
Yeah. He was sleeping in there. We had to wake him up. Sleepy Jackson in there. Let's go to Luke, who wants to talk about Rand Carthon. Luke, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
So, like many others, pretty upset about reading what's out there, and kind of seems like a smears campaign, but there was something that popped up on A to Z Sports where they said they had heard about these things for some time, maybe over the past year, as far as like the drive and the performance, but it was nothing that they could substantiate. I wish the sources wouldn't be anonymous, like whoever talked to Paul, but they basically ended it with saying when there's smoke, there's fire. I think it was Sam Phelan, but I don't know.
You think it was Brinker? Think it was Brinker who gave him that info?
I mean, they said they've been hearing it for over a year, so I don't know.
He's been here for over a year. Let me tell you who I don't know this for a fact, but let me tell you just how the NFL works. It was the holdover scouts. Can't convince me it wasn't.
Oh, man.
And unless they want to go on the record and say it is who it actually is. But also, let's not put out stuff that's that you can't substantiate as well. That's kind of how I am.
Oh.
So, I get what Luke is trying to say, but you kind of look at the whole thing, and I'm thinking, come on. I mean, where was all this, crazy stuff that's coming out when Chad Brinker had already worked for Rand Carthon for a year? Who are you hearing the information from, and how does it benefit them? That's how we always need to know. That's how we always need to look at rumors and all that. Where do you think the information come from? And it came from people who don't like Rand Carthon. Who were Ryan Cowden supporters or John Robinson supporters or Mike Vrabel supporters. I just guarantee you that's where it came from.
Here, based off of being in the media somewhat here, whenever you hear a rumor mill, you must be able to substantiate what you're hearing on your own accord. If not, it's just rumor. Guess what? We're all humans. People are going to say certain things, and sometimes what is their hidden agenda when they tell you something? Not just to believe it, but to back it and confirm it. because rumor mills go on all the time in whatever industry, in the corporate world to whatever industry you're in. So that's why I don't get into all the conjecture about rumors.
And I also look at it like this. If he had been lazy since he got here,
that's
why'd he get a 4-year extension?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, spare me
Yes.
this information. Let's go to AG who wants to talk Tennessee Titans. AG, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
I just feel like the same problems keep on rolling over, though. Offensive line, special teams.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the foundation of what we're doing is pretty good, though, but you got to take the head on off. I feel like Rand Carthon was in charge. And now, you putting it in Brinker hand. We got a cool coaching staff. We bringing in better players. Let's keep on. Don't take up the whole foundation. You just take the head off because he's not fixing these core issues. Offensive line, special teams, and we need a quarterback. We got Rand. We got Callahan. He should help with the evaluation process, so we should be able to do good on evaluating the quarterback. That's all I got.
There you go. I mean, shaking up the foundation, maybe it's not as a big foundation shaker because you do have Brian Callahan and really him and the players build the foundation. I mean, when it comes down to Brian Callahan lays down his vision in the locker room and the players carry on that vision, however you want to kind of word it.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's not a big thing, but I do agree. I mean, we had Brian Callahan talk this week and he said,
Monday.
I mean, this is what he said, 1-6 from January 6th. I think you just can't be afraid, and this is on how the three of them navigated through disagreements, how Brian Callahan, Chad Brinker, Rand Carthon navigated through disagreements. I think you just can't be afraid to have a hard conversation. You state your opinion, and you say what you believe in, and you had to come to a consensus. And then whenever the consensus is reached, whether you ultimately are in full agreement or not, you move forward. Because that's the decision that we've made together. I think that's the way most decisions get made in good business. You take the information, you state your opinion, and then you decide what's the best way to move forward. And even if you're not the one that's fully on board with it, or you think another opinion, once you make the decision, you go. And it's our decision at that point, and we're all a part of it. We all own it. So that's how it's always worked, and I think it's worked pretty well, except for only one person had to own it. And that was Rand
He didn't
Carthon.
say that part, though.
Yeah, he didn't say that part. I ended it. That was my thought. But only one person had to own it, and that was Rand Carthon.
I mean, it's his big time, scapegoating. And I mean, that's all it is. And it's just unfortunate because I really wanted to look at it as we keep all in unison or we get rid of all in unison. And at least now that you're going down this road of letting Rand go as a GM, then to me, bringing in another GM without him having the ability to hire his own coach, oh, man, we're just, zigzag. So puzzled now here, going back and forth here. That's probably not even fair to Brian Callahan.
Yeah.
It's not even right. Like, man, he's on the hot seat, not just because they were losing, just because he's a new GM.
Right.
It is. I mean, man, I don't even know if I would want to be in that circumstance here, man. They should move forward now that they've made this move and move forward with a new coach.
Chad Brinker knew how his new role affects the draft preparation. He goes, there's a lot more on my plate, and I'm excited about it. That's for sure. That was Chad Brinker on February 2nd, 2024. And that goes into what Brian Callahan said about on the process of working with Chad Brinker throughout the year. Chad Brinker was involved in all of it. Let's just end it right there. You cannot insulate and separate Chad from Rand or Ranahan, if you even want to get into Rand and Callahan in there.
Right.
Yeah, Chad Ranahan. That's what we're going to call the collective.
Okay.
It was a collective. This whole thing has screamed, all the things that they have messaged and sent to us was collaboration. The only thing that got collaborated out the door was Rand Carthon. Let's go to Bobby in Nashville and let's talk about Brian Callahan. Bobby, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Hey, guys, I got to know what you think. Dan Campbell had a worse record than this when he started his first year in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
You think Callahan can get better next year? I'll hang up and listen.
Yeah, Bobby. I mean, I think that's possible. I mean,
Absolutely.
They're going to have to find a quarterback. And
but what is the number? What? No. What is the number of wins where he will not be able to keep his job?
So
that's
there's
what I'm referencing.
a difference between getting better, right, and then a difference between getting better enough to save your job.
Right.
9-8, I think, is what he's got to get to. And I'm not even sure. Listen, I'm not even sure if he went 9-8 and just barely missed the playoffs if he gets to keep his job with how this team is ran.
And that's why I'm saying what I'm saying. He's in a losing proposition. Now, it can happen. Let's don't get it wrong. Now, things have happened in the NFL. We see what the Commanders are doing, or Detroit did after a couple years or so. So I'm saying it can happen, but the way things are structured here now, I just don't know if it could happen immediately in one season. So let's let's wait till after the draft and free agency first, and see where they're at. That doesn't even mean just because you sign and draft great players that you can equate that to getting to 9 wins.
Wait, well, we just saw that.
I'm like, oh my God,
Did we not?
And I just go, man, that's a tough one there. I don't know if that's actually possible, but that's a tough one there. You're asking a lot out of that coach to do that, but I'm hoping that happens for his sake, being that he's such a great guy. But man, that's asking a lot. You go from 3 to 9. Ooh, now you could say because of the quarterback change. Well, who is that quarterback? We could talk about all the different veteran quarterbacks, and then you draft also, but then the pressure to play if you're not winning games for the young quarterback, we got to see him. And then that's going to help. He's going to have to go through his lumps. So 9 wins, I just feel like that's going to be a tough task unless you get some veteran quarterback, as you've been mentioning, from Derek Carr to Cousins to whoever it may be, that has a little bit left in the tank to carry them to at least being very competitive in all games and a chance to make the playoffs. That's a lot.
Chad has his responsibilities. Rand Carthon has his, and I have mine. This is Brian Callahan on Monday. And we all come together and try to make whenever decisions are made or whenever we need to do something, that we're all on the same page, and we have been all year. So all these moves that were laid at the feet of Rand Carthon, even though that he's doing the same vision, they all have the same vision, they're all aligned, he's the one that got shown the door. And nobody finds that curious out there?
You know what that reminds me of? Like you hugging a person like it's your brother, and then you walk out and then
put a kick me sign on the
back. Like, dang. Boy, these guys, they did it with no blink of an eye. Like, that was nothing. Yeah, goes on all the time.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, that there, man. Hence,
I thought I was going to be more calm today.
You know what? Now, I don't know how quickly the payback comes, but, boy, it comes back around at some point.
Yeah, it will. You know, they're interviewing people, and we'll break down some of the interviewing candidates and all that kind of stuff. But I just have to get some of this stuff out there because, like, this idea that they have some new unified vision is a crock of crap. I had told Jackson yesterday, you know, these next few days he's going to have to make sure he has the dump button, handy just in case. On me just in case. But like, it's a lot of crap. It's the same stuff they told us last year, and it's the same person saying it.
Boy, he spoke so glowingly of Rand. I thought they already knew each other.
Yeah, no, did not know each other. They've talked about a few trades when Rand. By the way, let's think about this for a second. Rand, who's supposedly lazy, spoke to Chad Brinker about trades between San Francisco and Green Bay. Or there may be the Rams in Green Bay. But supposedly he's lazy and doesn't think about football, even though they put him in charge of maybe facilitating trades. I mean, what are we doing here, people?
We got to start using
there's a lot of lack of common sense in what is being perpetuated by the media and some of this Titan stuff that's come out.
Well, how do you view that, too? Like, okay, if it doesn't make sense if you're a reporter, I know you're not a reporter, but you also write. I mean, should they be reporting stuff that is nonsense just because they got the information and reported? I'm just trying to figure the integrity of
objectively,
that. Right.
Yes. If you've got enough sources, you should be able to go out there and do it. Does not mean that it's correct or 100% truth, right? We know that there are conflicting reports that come out all the time.
But when you're a reporter, don't you have to say this doesn't add up?
I think you should. You should be allowed to do that, but maybe people don't want to lose out on this. I think providing context and nuance is very important no matter what you believe. You got to do that. I've learned from some of my mistakes in the past, and sometimes, you just got to be careful with what you put out there. And I think you got to provide that, like, hey, I think you should be able to say, hey, this, you don't have to say it came from a scout or something, but maybe you say this is a holdover from the prior regime saying this. Or maybe this is a higher up that, is in a new position. Or I word it some kind of way, but some of this stuff is just, it's crap. It's bull crap. You can't, okay, let me rephrase. You can't nap your way up to the top in the NFL.
Nah.
You may not be good at your job, but a lot of people get promoted that are not good at your job. But the stuff they put out is bull crap, in my opinion.
Yeah, because
I'm not saying that's not true or not, but the way that you are painting Rand Carthon, who by all accounts of everything that Chad has said and everything that Amy has said is a good person. Well, you sure as hell aren't treating him as a good person.
Yeah,
you're not.
Yeah, well, good guys finish last.
All right, I better go to break. Let me take a breath. When we come back, we'll get to your phone calls. 615-737-1045. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop, Zach Lyons here on 1045 The Zone. Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors, 615-737-1045. And we want to get to you. We got Eki, who wants to talk about Rand Carthon. Eki, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
What's up, Zach? Blaine?
What's
going
up?
on, Eki?
So, well, first it's CJ, but everybody knows my last name now, so that's a cool thing. But I want to go into something that I noticed that, well, I was raised to feel this way. So if you don't know me, and anybody who knows the sound of my voice understand this, I am of Nigerian descent. My parents came to this country from Nigeria in the 80s, and we were raised with the idea that at the end of the day, you never forsake family. So I love my brothers to the ends of the earth, but if they're doing something bad, I'm going to tell them that it's bad, and I'm going to hold them to account. So today I want to hold the Titans organization to account, because what they did to Rand Carthon, to me, and it's not fair to pay somebody whom by all accounts was a good man and an awesome evaluator, someone who's lazy. I don't think that was fair, and ultimately it's going to take a long time for this organization to repair the reputation that's been damaged in the last 48 hours. To me, the easy part is to rebuild the roster. You can find better players. You can coach better. You can play better. You can do all of those things better. It'll take a long time to recover it's a damaged reputation. That's all I got.
All right.
Yep.
I mean, hey, I think that is probably the sentiment that most fans feel like right now. I feel like that fans seem to think and or seem to believe that they've been hoodwinked. And I don't blame them. I think that the way that they've handled this situation, and listen, I agree with John Robinson being fired. I thought he would get one more year, but I agree with him being fired. There was enough resume, enough stuff to say, okay, he's got to go.
Well, the timing of the fire was a little, was a little.
Timing was terrible. And then we get to the Mike Vrabel thing. And then what did they say yesterday, Blaine? They said, well, we hired Rand Carthon for this kind of GM job where he's going to work with the existing head coach. The existing head coach, he didn't even want him. Bad process, dysfunction. And then they decide that, okay, well, we're going to change what our approach is. We're going to change the job description of general manager. Okay? Well, they all talked about it all offseason in February on the official Titans podcast, and they were all on the same page. Brian Callahan was the same. They were all on the same page. They made all these decisions together. But somehow Rand Carthon didn't fit the job description, the new fangled job description that they made up, that they gave him the job for. They made Chad Brinker president of football operations. They made him executive vice president and general manager with these new duties, and they gave him an extension. Give me a break.
There's a history of the giving an extension and then moving past you. So do not get an extension. You know what? Callahan's going to get an extension. Him and Brinker.
Heck, Brinker may have already got an extension. I didn't know that Rand Carthon had got one.
Yeah, I didn't either.
And I would assume he got one to align with his contract with Brian Callahan's.
Right.
But I mean, this is crazy. It is erratic. And Mina Kimes on ESPN called this whole thing erratic. And that is the perfect word. And I heard that after we went off the air, and I'm like, that was the word I was searching for throughout that whole show. Erratic. And that's what it is. And it is hard for me. I know this job opening is going to be appealing. You got the first round pick. You're going to get the title. You're going to get the pay bump, and you're going to get your name out there, right? Like you're going to be now constantly in the GM cycle for any future jobs or team president jobs or whatever.
And don't act like people, I don't want to come there. No, there's going to be people who want this job. There's no way
There will
around
be
it.
someone of high quality that wants this job. And they're going to want it.
one of
They're going to
32.
take it.
One of
And you know
32.
what's going to happen? They'll be team team president next year after they fire Chad Brinker. Because that's how it goes.
No.
Or are they going to fire Callahan first?
No, Brinker is going to be smarter than
You think
Rand
so?
was.
Yeah.
And he's going to hire somebody
That won't come after him.
that stays in their spot.
Yeah.
Know where you stand and stay there.
Right. That's what's going to happen. Are you buying what the Tennessee Titans are selling? That's what we want to know. 615-737-1045. Blaine, are you buying what these Tennessee Titans are selling?
Where do they sell it?
Well, this newfangled vision, quote unquote vision.
Well, I don't know if I'm buying, but ultimately the results, it's a results business, and all I want to do is win. Man, all this, I call it, tomfoolery, high schoolish political stuff in the hierarchy and all this, man, there's no need for all of that. Just win and all will be forgotten. So if Brinker can get it done with whoever he hires as the GM, I'll be elated. It's somewhat hurtful from being a former player just to see the organization go through this. Unfortunately, sometimes you have to have a lot of failures to get to where you want to be. Maybe Amy's learning all of that at the same time, and hopefully we'll look back at this and and be glad that, hey, man, it was a good thing to get the number one pick, and then everything else followed. So that's what I'm hoping for.
Just win, baby.
Yeah, just win, man. They better.
They have to.
I'm not. They don't win, man. I don't know what may happen to
this whole listen.
They may all get fired
because I've talked about it before, right? We've talked about the where it's here's Rand Carthon, official Titans podcast, February 6, 2024. It's all new, and we have new systems to put in place. And again, now it's going to be a little bit of a reset because we were doing things a certain way last year with Mike Vrabel, and now we've got to reset it and adjust to what we have now. And hopefully this will be the way that we'll do things for the next 10 to 15 years. Well, we know that last part's not coming for Rand Carthon at least. But they're they tell you it's a reset. Now, they didn't really carry that message all the way through, neither did Chad Brinker. But at the end of the day, they don't have the option of a rebuild right now. They got to win.
But he keeps saying patience, though.
Well, patience over panic.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I like that it pertains to him, just not to everybody else. Everybody else plays by a different set of rules.
That's when you're the king of the throne.
Yeah, that's why you're the king of the castle, the king of the throne. When we come back, we'll get to your phone call, 615-737-1045. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons on 1045 The Zone. Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Door, 615-737-1045. Chad Brinker says, I know, Rand and I, we've had a lot of conversations just around philosophically how to build a football team, and we're just so aligned, he and I. And then a couple months later, not even a year later, Rand Carthon has been shown the door, and Chad Brinker has been giving, supposedly, more power. Maybe he had that power all along, and we just didn't know. Let's go to Larry, who wants to talk about Rand Carthon. Larry, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Hey, guys. How y'all doing? My comment is I've been watching this team from their inception, when they first come here, and through all those different coaches and leadership changes and stuff like it. To me, it seems like we just can't get it right because our offense, they need some help. We've been needing help from day one. Every quarterback you put back there, he's running for his life. We need some protection back there. We need some guys that can hold the ball and catch the ball, and maybe a good few edge rushers and stuff like that. I think too much emphasis is on general management and the office. I think the emphasis should be on the players out there because the coach can say all he wants, do all he wants, but he can't get out there and play that game. That's all I have. Thank you.
I mean, Larry's got a point, but also those players are here because of the GM, right? Like, he's got to make moves and all this stuff, got to pay people and everything. Like, it's interesting because I see a lot of people talking about the quarterback situation and team trade back. They think that Chad Brinker's team trade back. Now, I don't know whether Chad Brinker is team trade back or not, but I know that he is team quarterback. Here are some quotes from February 2nd, 2024. I had these locked and loaded because I come prepared. If you have the quarterback, you have a chance. Ron Wolf used to say this in Green Bay. I've heard it. It's been ingrained in me from day one. If you don't have a quarterback, a high-level one, forget about it. Don't make any plans that you're going to the Super Bowl anytime soon. I wouldn't say that they have a quarterback right now. They don't have the guy. They don't have a high-level one. Not necessarily sure that you guys are going to see a trade back. Doesn't mean that couldn't happen. We don't know. But this idea that he's for sure team trade back, and listen, we've seen Chad Brinker say some stuff and then go back and change his tune a year later. So maybe he's changed his tune. But I'll follow that up with, I was taught for years in Green Bay, and every 2 to 3 years, you need to be drafting quarterbacks and develop them.
Right, and he's not saying that's going to be a high pick, but he's saying that at some point you got to start always looking for the next quarterback.
Right.
So based off that, I
you
mean,
don't have a quarterback.
Right. Yeah, well, then he's definitely taking one with the number one pick.
Yeah.
Is that what you would think?
I would think that there's a high chance probability that they're going to be taking a quarterback in this draft, and I would be very surprised unless they got lucky in trading back and still getting one of those top quarterbacks.
What's the order of the draft? Titans, then
Titans, then Browns and Giants, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. I don't have it up on my screen, but I know it's Browns and Giants in some order right behind them.
Well, the Giants definitely going after quarterback, right? I would assume the Browns maybe, but maybe not as high. But
yeah,
I don't know. They may be trying to play the game. Well, yeah, we need a quarterback too, even though Watson's back, but that's for one more year. I don't know.
So I wouldn't just put out there that they're 100%.
I would say this. One thing I've learned about playing in the National Football League, even if you do have a quarterback and you know that in the next 3 years they won't be your quarterback, you never let a franchise quarterback go by. You have to take them. You have to take them. And then guess what? Then you develop them over the next 2 or 3 years. Look what Green Bay, who you mentioned, did with Love to Aaron Rodgers.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Let's go to, and let me say this. What scares me the most about this whole situation, Blaine, is that I'm going to get freezing cold taked when they sign Aaron Rodgers. I'm going to be in utter,
I don't think that's going to happen.
You don't think so? Chad Brinker knows him. All right. And Chad Brinker runs the show. He has final say, just saying.
Oh, no.
The GM they get has no
You're
say.
So
Let's go
right.
to James, who wants to talk about Rand Carthon. James, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Zach, you stole my thunder.
Oh, sorry.
I was literally going to say, last night, I didn't really know who Chad Brinker was. So I read his bio, and he was there in Green Bay for 13 years, and I was like,
man, maybe him and Rand had a, disagreement between bringing in Aaron Rodgers, but
Maybe so.
All right.
I mean, we
I
don't know.
appreciate that.
Right?
That's kind of where I was going.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
man.
mean, what
I
if they
said I wouldn't be
disagreed?
surprised, but
Yeah.
man, I'd have not.
What if they what if they disagreed on the quarterback prospects?
Right, and they thought one said I want to take one, the other one said no. Trade
or maybe
back.
I want to take Ward, and no, I want to take Sanders.
Come on, someone had to come to agreement. Then that's where the power struggle comes in.
I don't know, but according to Brian Callahan, they all work together like good little boys, good little soldiers. Let's go to Joseph, who wants to talk about Tennessee Titans. Joseph, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
How you doing, gentlemen?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My opinion on this Rand deal is, we don't know the backstory of what went on inside the walls of the stadium. None of us know for sure.
Absolutely.
However, I think it would have been much more prudent if she would have given them one more year with the new stadium being built. Yeah. Then if it didn't work, you get rid of everybody, start fresh, and say we're starting anew with the Tennessee Titans. And I think the fans would have absorbed it better. Because if you look at Rand, he hasn't done a bad job drafting and bringing players on, considering the last two drafts before him, well, how many people are left? One or two?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I'm with you.
Yeah, I'm
Joseph.
with you. Yeah, I completely agree. That was the
Thanks
safe
for the
play.
call.
Let us all go, and then next year, if it doesn't work, you go all anew, and then you're going to the stadium. I agree. Completely agree. I thought that was what was going to happen, to be honest.
Well, I mean, that's what we've been saying, right? You either keep all of them or you fire all of them.
Yeah.
And especially if you're going to keep Chad Brinker around, don't saddle him with, Brian Callahan, who he may or may not even want.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just not the way to go about doing business. This is how dysfunctional franchises stay dysfunctional. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Man,
Let's
you're
go
not
to
learning from your past mistakes.
Not at all. Not at all.
Man, that's weird.
Erratic. Let's go to William, who wants to buy Rand Carthon. William, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Hello, now don't you guys hang up on me because of what I'm about to say.
Well, I don't know. We're going to listen, before you say anything, if you're going to be cussing, Jackson's got the dump button ready.
I'm not going to be cussing.
Okay.
I wouldn't do that, but check it out. I believe that the GM was let go because they had a difference in philosophy on losing the last 4 or 5 games. Carthon came from the 49ers, a winning organization. He helped build the team the last 2 years with all the people that he brought on. He did not bring those players on to lose. I believe they had a difference in philosophy on the last 4 or 5 games because the coach had 2 quarterbacks in the last game. There is no way you expect him to win that game starting 2 quarterbacks.
So,
all right, guys.
so let me, before you go, William, so you're saying that Brinker and Callahan were in on they were wanting to lose those 4 games on purpose, but Rand Carthon did not.
To get the number 1 draft pick, yes.
Okay, cool. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. I appreciate your call, William.
Yeah.
The last 4 or 5 games.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think the last game.
You
were coaching to lose,
right?
But I agree. I don't know about the other games.
4 or 5 games. I don't know. I thought they were playing to win.
Yeah.
To be honest, that's to me. That's why he put Mason Rudolph out there. Right. He even said it. He gives us a better shot of winning.
Maybe he was.
That
just
was his
lying.
words.
Maybe he was just just brinkering us. I guess telling us what we wanted to hear.
No, he was tinkering with us.
He was hashtag tinker for Brinker, or let Brinker tinker. Let's go to David, who wants to talk about Rand Carthon. David, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Yeah, I really wanted to talk about the fact that deceit runs in this whole franchise from when they were in Houston. Bud lied to Houston and said, if you renovate, I'll stay here. Well, guess what? He didn't. Well, guess what? He fired Malarkey when he was winning. And you've got a woman that's his daughter who was trained just like he is and ended up giving Carthon a 4-year extension because she knew she was going to fire him. That was his severance.
So you're thinking that's hush money? Oh, he hung up. Because that's what you said yesterday. You were joking.
Yeah, I
But
was
you
joking
said
with John Robinson, Vrabel.
That got put on Facebook, by the way. I saw it. Yeah, they did say you were joking, but it was just funny to see it pop up on Facebook.
I mean, it just keeps happening, man. Hey, you know what? I think I should apply for the GM job.
Let's be co-GMs.
Co-GMs, man.
Yeah.
I don't know.
See, we be
can't be any worse.
co-GMs. We be co-GMs, and then we have a mutually assured destruction clause.
Oh,
that way I can't get over you, you can't get over me.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, mutually assured destruction.
That way the fingers are always pointing back and forth at us.
Well, no, we point them at Chad Brinker and Brian Callahan. We'll just do what they're doing, Well, not Brian Callahan, but we'll just do what Chad Brinker's been doing and what, all these people are doing.
You got to get a 10-year deal.
10-year deal for sure.
10-year deal.
And then if we get fired after one, I'm all in. I'm all in.
Yeah.
And we'll bring Jackson as the new head of security. You in?
I'd be horrible at that job.
You think so?
I'm very gullible.
Man.
I think you would be incredible.
All right. When we come back, we're going to get to Kevin, Chuck, and William after the break. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone.
Stinky, stinky, stinky. Is that what it was like the last time you were at an auto repair shop? Smelly, greasy old rags laying around? A countertop that you would not dare touch? Another thing that stinks is the repair shops that keep your car forever. And they're not honest. And they don't call you back when they say they will. Was that your last experience at a vehicle repair shop? Hey, it's Blaine Bishop to tell you about Eurofix, who takes the stink out of European auto repair. And at Eurofix, you get a free 15-minute no-wrench inspection with an estimate every visit and not high-pressure sales tactics. And at Eurofix, you get a 3-year nationwide warranty and a free loaner car with every repair appointment. And you never pay dealer pricing. Family-owned for 26 years. And Eurofix is located in Franklin, Hunted Oaks, Murfreesboro, Belmead, and now Mount Juliet. And all you have to do is just give them a call at 844-EUROFIX. That's right, 844-EUROFIX, or you can visit them online at myEurofix.com. That's myEurofix.com. But always tell them Blaine said you.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors, 615-737-1045. Let's get to Kevin. Oh, my gosh.
Oh, you're choked up, man.
Excuse me. I just coughed all over this microphone. I'm going to have to get the Lysol out for...
Well, you're going to have to just take that
just take the little microphone cover home?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
What is that called, the thing, the cover?
I just call it a microphone cover.
Oh, okay.
Does it got a fancy name? Does it have a fancy name, Jackson?
It is called a pop filter.
Oh, a pop filter. Oh, I thought the pop filter was only the things that, like, I know those are pop filters too, but I thought they were the things that only come out from the microphone.
I mean, that's what I've always called it.
And I just gave everybody probably something to freeze frame. And
you can just take that one home with you.
Let's go to
that one's yours now.
Let's go to Kevin, who wants to talk about Sanders. If this is Deion Sanders as GM, Kevin, I'm going to have to hang up on you. So I just want to give you that.
Okay.
I have not made that today.
I got you. How y'all guys doing?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Good. Hey, I'm going to go one step further. I'm going to piggyback off of a call you just had before the break. I do believe that at halftime of the Jacksonville game, when the Titans were down, I think the decision was made to tank the following game if they lost. Because you had people on the injury report with paper cuts that didn't go. And if you listen to Jeffrey Simmons after the last game last week, his post, interview after the game, he was pissed because he was saying he was out there with braces on his arm and he was still playing and other guys was not playing. So I think the tank was full in. And I'm going to be quick on this. If I'm the Titans and I'm Amy and I'm looking at that last game with not a single soul in the stadium, including me, I wasn't there because it was cold and raining. I'm going to try to find a way to get some people in the stadium. And Shador is the only draftee out there that will bring people to the stadium. Whether it's Titan fans that like him or don't like him, he has his own following anyway. And he's going to help you marketing, and he's going to win you games. So it's a win-win for Amy. I get off the phone and listen. You guys have a good day.
Hey, thank you. Hey, you ain't going to hear... Listen, I'm a Shador Sanders guy, so you didn't hear anything from me. So I agree.
That's the business side of it. But also, is he a good fit for the Callahan offense?
Yeah.
And for the team. So ultimately, that's the decision is going to be made. And Callahan is going to be a part of that decision as well as Brinker, actually, who have the final say. So
yeah, well, I mean, everything is Brinker. He's the football guru. And also, Mike Sock is another name for this, apparently. So Mike Sock. I like that name.
Oh, Mike Sock.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
Mike Sock.
Oh,
all right, let's go to Chuck, who wants to talk Tennessee Titans. Chuck, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Hey, guys. Hey, I'm going to quote the great philosopher Don Meredith. Ifs and buts for candy and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas. Let's move on from Rand. Rand's gone. Let's talk about what the Titans need. There's two things that's going to happen. Either they're going to fall in love with Shador Sanders or Cam Ward, and they're going to take him at number one, or they're going to hopefully trade back with the Giants, Patriots, or Raiders, pick up some draft capital, and go after a quarterback in 26. So that's the only thing I see. It's time to move on from Rand. Rand was a good guy, but, hey, he's gone. Amy ain't bringing him back no matter how many petitions they make. It ain't happening. Let's move on and talk about what we can do to make this team better.
All right. Thank
what
you,
pick
Chuck.
are the Raiders? That's who I was looking
Seventh.
for. Do you think let's imagine this now. You're the guru already doing the draft stuff. If you trade with the Raiders from 7 to 1 for Shador Sanders, we all know they like him there. So what do you think the Titans would need to be compensated with?
Oh, that seventh round pick, probably
seventh pick.
Right. Yeah. Sorry. Did I say seventh round? I meant that seventh overall pick, next year's overall first, and probably a second in this draft class, a second in that next year's draft class, and probably a third in this year's draft class. You should be getting 5 to 6 picks for that pick.
Okay. Now, let's say you did that. What would it take for you to move up to, let's say, 3 if you are 4 to, this is kind of maneuvering kind of Texans did, to get, let's say, the Penn State pass rusher?
Probably if you went up to 4, because that's probably the spot you'd want to get to, 4 or 5, wouldn't be as much as what you gave up.
Oh, of course
or
not.
what you got.
No, what
so
you
probably
got.
like a first this year and maybe a second next year and maybe that third back to them.
Ooh, okay. Oh, that's a little more than I thought. But
Yeah.
that is the type of maneuvering
Right.
I think you may be doing here. At least you get more picks as well as you get a player that's going to impact your team immediately. Now, you may not have gotten your quarterback. I don't know what they think about the quarterbacks. Do they think they're franchise quarterbacks? You're hearing a lot of, conjecture about, Shador. I don't know if it's true or not. He's not a high first pick. I don't know if that's true or not, or is that just the hate on Sanders, the name?
I'm gonna. That's a conversation.
But I've watched him enough to say I think he is, as well as Cam Ward. So they both have their knocks on, things in college, but they are high performing and well deserving, no different than other guys. Now, if they were in last year's draft, they would probably be middle round, first round guys, but they still would be in the first round compared to the other quarterbacks.
I look at it this way. There's also, it was something that we're going to talk about in football, and the F words I got on my agenda is about this quarterback class and how I think last year's quarterback class is skewing the perception of these quarterbacks in this draft class. Because I think everybody's trying to use a once-in-a-generation quarterback class that is filled with draft prospects and saying, oh, well, this draft class is like the 2022 draft class with Kenny Pickett and Malik Willis. This ain't that same draft class. I think it's a load of crap, and I think it's because of last year's draft class was just so good.
Right. Well, what I'm getting is if they were in the same draft class, this is what I'm saying is that they wouldn't go ahead of those guys. That doesn't mean in this class they aren't the best.
I think if the scouting process, if these two players were involved in the draft scouting process last year, at the same time as like Bo Nix and Michael Penix, they'd be right there. I think they would be right there with Bo Nix and Michael Penix as far as what you saw big board wise. Does not mean I think that they're up there with Drake May and
right. That's
guys.
what I'm getting the top guys. That's what we're talking about. 1 and 2.
Would you take a Bo Nix?
Well, now after seeing them, Well, I mean, of course.
Right.
But at 1 and 2, I don't think they were saying Bo Nix was 1 or 2.
I mean, it was going to be hard for anybody to take over for Caleb Williams.
Yeah, no doubt.
And they may be in the conversation of like, maybe they could go 2 because nobody really knew who was going to go 2.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So like, nobody was going to overtake Cam Ward, to be honest with you. Or
Caleb Williams.
Caleb Williams. So I get what you're saying there. Let's go to Matt, who wants to talk about Rand Carthon. Matt, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Hey guys, love the show.
Thank you.
I think that Rand was brought in. He was a relationship guy. He brought in plenty of people that were good players, but they might not have worked out. But maybe he wasn't the talent evaluator. He obviously was for Levis. Vrabel wasn't. So he was kind of tied to him. And since Will Levis has been a bust, I think that may be why he was let go over Chad Brinker, who knows? I mean, he did ship off Malik Willis to his old buddies in Green Bay, and they may have asked him, what do you think about him? And maybe he was like, I think he's better than what a lot of people are giving him credit for, and that's turned out to be true. So maybe that's why he was let go. I'll let you guys listen.
I got a little lost there.
Basically, he's saying Brinker was connected with Malik Willis, and that's why the trade was evaluated. They didn't want Malik Willis, and they kept Levis.
Gotcha.
And
Okay.
And Levis is attached to Rand.
Gotcha. Levis is attached to Rand, Amy, and Vrabel. I mean, he's attached to all of them. It's the stuff that comes out. Like now, yesterday it was Mike Vrabel was on the phone with, and Buck said this. Mike Vrabel was the one on the phone with Monty Ossenfort to facilitate the trade because of obviously they lean on relationships. So Mike Vrabel was the one talking to Monty Ossenfort, coming up with the trade and all that kind of stuff, with probably Rand's involvement and everybody in the room's involvement, right? I mean, that's how it typically goes. And then, Buck said today that he heard that, well, if it wasn't Peter Skoronski, it would have been Will Levis. Well, we also heard that out of their mouths after that press conference. The day 2, I believe it was, round 2, after they drafted Will Levis, they said, well, if Peter Skoronski wasn't there, it would have been Will Levis, is what they said up at that podium. So that's nothing really new. But what we have heard is that there were 2 factions between Peter Skoronski and Zay Flowers. So how much of it is true that they still would have drafted Will Levis? I don't know. Maybe it was just quarterback desperation at that point because they really wanted C.J. Stroud. But at the end of the day, they chose Peter Skrine. They chose a guard, an offensive lineman, over a quarterback, which tells you how much they really kind of thought of that quarterback, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
It's. I mean, listen, in the Paul Karski piece about the sleepy Rand, he's talking about. He also said that Rand Carthon left the pro day early of Will Levis's pro day early to go handle maybe some other business or something like that. So maybe Rand Carthon kind of knew that Will Levis stunk, and that's why he left early. He's like, I got better things to do than watch this guy's pro day. Let's go to William, who wants to talk about Chad Brinker. William, you're on with Blaine Zach.
Hey, guys, thanks for the call. I am just curious, and I am ignorant on this regard. What is Brinker's bona fides that causes him to be in such high regard with the organization as to what he's accomplished in the past that would cause him to be this unique individual who could run the entire program? I'll hang up and listen. Thanks, guys. Love the show.
No problem.
Great question.
It's a great question. He said bona fides, and I realized that he meant bona fides. But listen, he's spent 13 years with the Packers. They thought so highly of him that they decided that they were going to pay his way through Northwestern to get the analytics degrees that he needed, the master's degrees that he needed to maybe advance in their own program. And the Packers are a really good, well-run team. No denying it.
Yep.
How much of that is because of Chad Brinker? We don't really know.
No
but he was involved in certain things, right? I mean, it's kind of like the Rand Carthon stuff. Like, that he did work, and that's why he kept getting promoted. Now, he doesn't really have the quote-unquote GM experience, right? He wasn't an assistant GM over at the Packers. His titles there were scouting he was there from 2009 to 2022. Okay. Scouting intern, scouting assistant, pro scout, assistant director of pro scouting / salary cap analyst, and then personnel / football administration executive. Then he became assistant general manager over here. So he never really he had duties that overlap with general manager stuff. He has 13 years of experience. He knows scouting. He knows analytics. And he knows
continued to grow and move up, though.
And he continued to grow and move up. But he doesn't. Most people go from assistant GM to general manager. Now, it's not like that every time, but that's typically how it goes. So he became assistant general manager here. Then 1 year later, they bumped him up to president of football operations.
So he skipped the GM part.
He skipped that GM part. They put him up there. And I look at it and I go, okay, his explanation to why he is not considered, why he's still hiring, quote unquote, a GM is that, well, the general manager duties are so vast now and they have to be different. So I'm doing this stuff and the general manager is over here doing this stuff, but he still has final say over everything. And this is a unconventional way to set up this power structure. No doubt about it. There's not one like this in the NFL around.
There is none.
I can't find it. I mean, I guess the closest you could say is having like Jerry Jones is quote unquote, according to Dallas's website, the general manager, but there's other people that probably do most of the legwork of GM.
Okay, got you.
So I mean, there is no guy that is a scouting, analytics, cap guy that also has final say over the roster. That's not really the GM. You get what I'm saying? There's not a GM head coach and then this guy's above them and has final say over both of them on all football things. Usually that's a guy that guy really stays out of the picture. But as we have heard from the 2024 season, Chad Brinker's all up in his DNA. His fingerprints are all up in this business. So he doesn't stay out of it like maybe a president of another team would or a CEO of another team would.
So what he's doing is then now I'm de facto boss.
Yeah.
I'm doing all the duties of a GM, but if things go wrong, I am not the one to blame because I'm now in a position where I
or at
will
least that's
never
what he's going to try and convince someone.
Ever at fault here.
Right.
That's what that sounds like.
That's what that sounds like.
Well, he's pretty sharp.
He is.
Those Kellogg
he played the game well. Played the game well. Let's go to Parker. Parker, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Well, it sounds like the guy's a snake, but really, anyway, I really feel like Amy's looking like the classic meme. So the comment section isn't going how you expected.
this whole debacle is just embarrassing. They're talking about us on ESPN. We're looking like the most dysfunctional team in the league. I just think this looks really bad. They didn't want to admit that we're doing a rebuild. I just want to say I hope with this number 1 pick, I think with the number 1 overall pick, you got to get a guaranteed stud. I just don't think there is that guy. My personal opinion, I'm not an evaluator or anything like that. But I think that we do need to admit that we are rebuilding a team, and we need to switch and get a bunch of picks, man. I really hope some things go good for our team, but right now it just looks like we're the laughing stock of the league. I appreciate it, guys.
I mean, for years, fans have wanted more national coverage from media, and they're getting it.
Oh, yeah.
You're just not the ones you want, right?
My. Man, I just...
Be careful what you wish for.
I missed who said this on the chat, man, but I had to say this. It says... Man, you can call in or retweet it or rechat it. Brinker put sleeping pills in Rand's drink.
You're gonna get us in trouble. You're gonna get us in trouble here.
I was like, what? Oh my
Can't
God.
believe you just read it.
That was hilarious. I thought that was so funny, though.
All right, let's go.
I thought it was funny. I had to get it out there.
Let's go to Brian. He wants to talk about the general manager position. Brian, you're on Blaine and Zach.
Hey, fellas, I love your show, man.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks.
Hey, let's. I was thinking we can go from laughable to a potable real quick. Well, I'm gonna pick Deion Sanders' son at the first on our first pick, and see if his dad wants to be our GM.
Now, listen, Brian, I know I didn't announce it today, but we are not doing Deion Sanders as general manager on this show.
General manager or head coach.
And listen, I'm okay with the Shadur Sanders talk. Brian, I'm with you. I like Shadur Sanders. But we're not doing Deion Sanders general manager. We're not doing Bill Belichick as general manager, Pete Carroll as general manager, or we're not doing Peyton Manning as general manager.
Deion said he is not going to the pros.
I'm names of that list, but we're not doing those.
Deion said he is not going to the pros.
Yeah.
At all. Now, we money can change your mind, but I don't think that's happening.
Jackson says they had a funny GM candidate proposed on Buck's show earlier. What was that?
What was that?
Peyton Manning coming to Tennessee to be the
Peyton
GM.
Manning, dump yourself. I said no Peyton Manning on this show.
Oh, man.
No Peyton Manning as GM.
No, you know what I would love, though?
Aaron Rodgers is GM.
If we're going to go to Peyton Manning, I'd rather Peyton Manning and Brinker spot, then Brinker becomes GM.
There you go. Listen, that's what's going to happen. You know what's going to happen? Aaron Rodgers is general manager. There you go.
Oh, no.
Now, we're going to get to the general manager because we have about, I think, 5 at the moment general manager candidates. And they're interesting. And I'm also going to tell you what Chad Brinker is looking for as well. But first, I want to keep going to the phones real quick. Let's go to Frank, who wants to talk about Rand Carthon. Frank, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Hey, good afternoon, gentlemen. I think that after listening to some of the stuff this morning about Rand and Callahan and the direction the team's going and the draft, develop, and retain piece, I don't think that Rand did a bad job in the draft if you look at the last couple of years and Skoronski and our top 2 picks and number 5, the 5th round pick. They were pretty good picks. It was the develop part that I think we fell short on, that they didn't get the guys, the coaches' staff as the develop part, and I don't think they did their job. So I'm a little confused by that. And then on the draft itself, these quarterbacks, what do you think about the opportunity to, like, if Penn State won the whole thing, Drew Aller took off, and he didn't have a reason to go back to Penn State, he may be an option that might fit Callahan's system better than the 2 current top guys. I'll get off now and listen to what you guys have to say about that.
Mm-hmm.
Frank, I like Drew.
I do too.
I do think that he's probably a year and a half to 2 years really away from being NFL ready.
Because he said he's staying, by the way.
He says he intends to stay.
Intends to stay. So that means he's getting his evaluation of where he may go in the draft.
Yeah. He intends to stay.
I like him.
Yeah. I like him, but he's a guy. And listen, I kind of feel like Shadur and Cam Ward's with these guys that they probably need to sit and learn a little bit while. Yes. But I love everything about Drew Aller's and traits and his intangibles and what he has shown on the field. I mean, he's really, really good. I just don't. I think he's really, really raw. Do we really want another project. That's my concern. But I'm not completely out on it. I'm just saying I have concerns. I have concerns with all
if
these
you brought in a
projects.
veteran quarterback, which you've been discussing,
Yeah, I'd be all in.
and then you still take him saying our goal is for him not to play at least this first year.
Well, that would also allow you to also have more options in trade back, right? If you're still interested in a quarterback, you can still get maybe Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders if Drew Aller goes number one.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit more options. So I kind of like it. When we come back, we're going to talk about the new GM candidates. We're also going to go to Carlos, Dylan, and Robbie as well. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone. Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. We're about to update you guys on the Titans GM search with 6 candidates that they have announced that they have requested to interview with. But first, we're going to go to your phones. We're going to go to Carlos. Carlos, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Yes. I'd like to defend Amy Adams. I believe that she is just being decisive. She says she wants to win. If the guy is not, whoever that may be, if that's the guy that's sweeping the parking lot, if they're not on the same page, working towards that goal, I say you just keep getting rid of everyone until you hit your target. Mm-hmm. You've got to find the right person. I don't dislike Rand, but at the same time, if she's made her mind up that he's not the right guy, then you just keep looking until you find that guy. Because the goal is to win. It's just like in any business. If you have to go through 30 people to find the right person, that's all that matters. Everything else is a wash. You've got to find the guy. So,
and I agree with you, Carlos, to a point. Like, I do agree. Now, I want to ask you a question, if you don't mind. Do you think that her processes have been sound enough to warrant trust that she knows what she's doing? Oh, we lost Carlos. There he is. Okay, Carlos.
I feel like the first few years she was doing a really good job. I feel like it's just with any business, you make mistakes, but once you've determined that you've made that mistake, you move on. You don't stay stagnant. If you're not moving forward, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. And if she's made the determination that this isn't the guy that's going to help us moving forward, then you've got to move on. You've got to cut your ties, and you've got to find the right guy. Once that guy's in place, keeping him, that has been a problem with the Titans, is keeping our talent, keeping our coaches. I don't believe that she should have ever fired Rabel. But at the same time, she made the determination that he wasn't the guy that was going to win the Super Bowl for her, and all she has preached is win. I think she really wants what's best for this team, and she's just making the best decisions that is in front of her.
Gotcha.
If that makes sense.
All right. I think it makes sense. I think it makes sense. I just think that if that's the case, if we're going to put records as the reason for firing someone, then maybe the coach should also be the guy to be fired. And the guy that also was with the coach and the GM in every decision that they all agreed on. In the end, they came to a consensus in Chad Brinker. That's all I'm saying. And listen, that's what we've said, right, Blaine? Me and you.
Yep.
We prefer keeping everybody. But if you're going to do this thing and say, we got to fire one, you got to fire them all because they're all responsible.
Maybe they didn't want to go through the hiring of a COO and a GM, and that now it's on Brinker. So then she gets to see who's at fault there.
We're not totally sold that the head coach is still going to be around. Oh, yeah, he's got to make it through the week at this point for me. Mm-hmm. Like, you make it through the week, I'll believe it. Because this is just how erratic has been. Dylan, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Yes, I was calling, and I was thinking Chad Brinker is the problem. If they get rid of him, I think it'll be about a team. And about Shedeur Sanders, if I was Deion Sanders, I wouldn't want my son to come to Tennessee. Because Tennessee is screwed up. As long as you got Chad Brinker there, it's going to always be a problem. Once they get rid of Chad Brinker, I believe the team will be in a better position.
There you go. Dylan's closing us out on the phone calls there. But, I mean, again, fire everybody. Just do it. Bite the bullet.
Yeah. I get what the caller said about, if it's not the right guy, move forward. Well, in this case, they were all locking steps, so it should have been everyone then if you were going to fire.
All right. They have started rolling in some announcements of interview requests. We talked about the first one was Chiefs Assistant General Manager Mike Bergonzi. He's the one that talked to Chad and helped facilitate, as they were the primary ones on the L'Jarius Sneed trade. So if you hate that L'Jarius Sneed trade, you probably don't want them involved. But he seems due. Bergonzi and GM Brett Veach came along upside each other as young execs in Kansas City. And there isn't a decision the latter makes without the former's involvement. Bergonzi also has a background working in the New England system. having broken into scouting under Scott Pioli, who also worked at Kansas City at some point. Yeah. And he's helped to build Kansas City's player development machine, which has allowed the team to stay balanced as the cost of the Chiefs' cornerstones has risen. Right there. So the next one, Bills Director of Player Personnel, Terrence Gray. Gray's a rising name they interviewed with the Raiders and Chargers last year and has been recommended to teams coming out of the Accelerator program. Having cut his teeth on the college scouting side, Gray's role grew into a global one with the departure of Joe Schoen, I can't ever remember, and Dan Morgan a couple years back. And he's worked on the pro side, the cap, and through CBA issues while the Bills have made him a move forward-facing member of the front office, giving him some exposure to the media. It's worth mentioning that ex-Vikings GM Rick Spielman helping to lead the Jets search, because, I mean, obviously he's over interviewing at the Jets, supposedly, hired him in Minnesota. So just in case maybe there's a connection there, something to keep on your radar.
Oh, I thought the Tannenbaums...
Tannenbaum, Spielman, they're all part of that 33rd group. Browns assistant general manager, Catherine Hickman, the former Catherine Raish, I guess she got married. I'm reading some stuff that people have wrote. Has an intriguing resume, having worked in decision-making positions for 2 CFL teams before being hired to Philly by Howie Roseman. It was there that she worked with Andrew Berry, who brought her over to be Vice President of Football Operations, the role Berry himself filled with the Eagles when he became Browns GM. So there you go. So there's some, experience there. Not a lot of scouting experience, and that is something that he was very adamant about, is that we're going to be looking, we prefer scouting background. It's something that Chad Brinker said. The next one is Colts assistant GM Ed Dodds. Dodds has long been one of the NFL's most respected evaluators as an integral part of the Seahawks Legion of Boom build and Indianapolis's GM Chris Ballard's right-hand man over the last 7 years. So take that for what it's worth, because everybody's saying that Chris Ballard should be fired. Do you want the guy that is right-hand man to the guy that should be fired? He was a finalist for the Panthers job last year and also interviewed for the openings with the Chargers and Raiders. Just so everybody remembers, 62, 69, and 1 is the record of the Colts assistant GM Ed Dodd since he's been the right-hand man with Chris Ballard. Reggie McKenzie, who everybody should be familiar with, former Raiders, also with the Packers, currently with the Dolphins, but he also spent a lot of time with Chad Brinker. One of, quote-unquote, one of his mentors is Reggie McKenzie, so it could be an easy spot to fill there. And then lastly, Buccaneers assistant GM John, I think it's Spitek, but I'm going to call it Spytek because that's how it's spelled, and that sounds way cooler. And he's been with the Buccaneers assistant. Another guy right on the cusp. The Bucs are one of 4 franchises in the cap era to win 3 straight division titles. Really, really impressive resume. He's been in the college scouts since 2005 or 2006, all the way up. So he's worked himself up all the way through these rankings. So those are your current, as of right now, general manager candidates that have had interviews, requests announced.
Of those groups, if you had to pick one, I'm not saying this is your group, which one would you pick?
I would go in order, Berganzi, Spitek or Spytek, and Terrence Gray. So the Chiefs guy, the Bills guy, and the Buccaneers guy, because those are the guys that are part of winning franchises. Everybody else is not. That's how we'll do it. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone. 3HL's up next. And in the meantime.
And in between time. Peace.